Hello and welcome to Block Leaders with me, Gillian Gottsell. And today my guest is Jay Boisver, who is the CEO of Wunder, a new type of social media, social experience, online ecosystem. So Jay, thank you very much for coming on the show. And before we jump into the genesis of Wunder and what it means to be on Wunder and why it's different, you have a background, amongst other things, in media and publishing, traditional media and publishing. So just tell me a little bit about that and what you enjoyed about it, shall we say?
Of course. Thank you for having me, firstly. Yeah, I got into publishing after working in the city for 9 or 10 years. I got into publishing just randomly. If I'm completely honest, I was approached for an investment and ended up purchasing that business, which was a publishing business that owned magazines. So it was effectively selling advertising. So it was a sales operation, really. And yeah, we very successful in that. We grew that business fivefold in turnover in the course of 18 months. Launched two new titles, one called Talk Business, which was for entrepreneurs, and one called Tempus, which was a luxury watch magazine, amongst other things. And yeah, that was we run those magazines. I slowly sold parts of the business off. Those magazines are still going to this day. Sold those to an investment firm, and then started actually working for that investment firm, sourcing investments for them. Um,
Am I
so
right in
it's,
saying that you were successful in those two publications because they interested you? You found something that you thought was, wow, I would like to read this.
yes, exactly that. So the magazines that came with the business that I purchased were quite boring, quite boring magazines. A retail magazine, a lighting magazine, a hospitality magazine. It was they were trade magazines.
Mm.
And once I learned the model of publishing and how we funded the business, which, as I say, was these were free magazines that were sent to the trade, so it was purely from advertising. So it's learning how to distribute these magazines to maximum effect and to obviously sell as much advertising as you can. So it made sense then to sort of branch out and start getting into or start producing magazines that interested me. And the first thing we launched was Talk Business, which is pretty much what it says on the tin, and it was for entrepreneurs, which really gave some insight and gave me some great opportunities to meet some real people, real cool startup founders and some big name celebs, within the business world. So it's I really enjoyed that magazine. It was a good read. And then yeah, with Tempest, I love watches, I love travel, I love food, fine dining, things like that. All the things I can't really afford. And yeah, we launched that magazine, and that went from strength to strength. And that gave me access or an insight into a different world, which was sort of the luxury world.
And you were doing lots
Took
of events as well, weren't you? Real life
Yes,
events.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
We did lots of parties, launch parties. We teamed up with F1, and so yeah, we went around the world really, because obviously we're looking to push that magazine, and sort of that was more around the distribution. So then I'm teaming up with F1, and we can distribute the magazine F1. So one hand sort of washes the other in a way, in that the more you can increase your distribution and get it into the right places with the right people reading it, that helps the sales guys go and sell advertising, which was the business effectively.
Mm.
So yeah, it was a great time. I really enjoyed that. It was publishing I knew nothing about. Obviously, I've been around sales, but not within publishing. So it was a real big learning curve. One I really enjoyed, and that sort of just led me into obviously into the next thing, which was the Long Drive World Series. So the investment firm that bought Tempest from me, as I say, I worked for them, sourcing investments for them, startups, or investing in existing business, to give them some sort of growth capital, and then I managed those investments. But we came up with another idea, which I pitched to them, and they put in 5.5 million quid into this idea, which was to launch something called the Long Drive World Series, which is the top 16 long drivers to golf, top 16 long drivers in the world, battle it out at events. So it's very similar to publishing in that it's all based around advertising. That was the business model to make money.
Mm.
But instead of just selling to people that want to advertise in a magazine, you're selling to people that want to live events and on screens at live events and selling to TV channels. You know, we have 52 broadcasters around the world that were taking the content, um, including Sky Sports here in the UK, and it was fantastic. We did numerous events. We did a couple in Dubai, one in Mexico City, two in London, one in Portugal, and then we teamed up with the PGA, the European tour, and started piggybacking off their events,
Hmm.
which gave us a ready-made audience. It was a great partnership because it actually saved us money as well. Because obviously the stands were already there, so we didn't have to go in and do a full setup. But it was cool, you know. It was a lot of pyrotechnics, music playing, live DJ. It was very different to golf. It was more of a party atmosphere. Yeah, we were smashing it. Absolutely, you know, looking back, that was probably the most enjoyable part of my life to date. It
Two
was going
days,
around
2 days,
to date.
2 days, yeah. Because
To
we're
date.
looking at, because and then COVID put an end to all that because travel, everything was stopped. So yours was very much predicated on live events and happenings and all the rest of it. So before we talk about Wonder, tell me a couple of things that happened to you or observations that you made about why the world wasn't necessarily getting better.
Well, that business was ended by COVID,
Yeah.
right? So we're a live event taking 60, 70 people around to these events, and there was no travel and everything. So that kiboshed that business
Mm.
basically. Um, and that led me to lockdown. Right, I have four young kids, very young kids, during lockdown, and it just gave me a lot of time as it did everyone. Right,
Mm.
it was a strange time, but during this time, and even to in the build up for that, especially around the golf side of things, we were getting on social media. I was never massively into social media really, but doing the golf, it sort of led me into that world a bit, and during lockdown, just it was the constant feed of bad news. Right, you turn the news. It was just a weird time. There was a lot of bad news going around, but it also gave me time to sort of look into social media, why it's so negative, and really just why the big boys aren't doing anything about it. They're literally not doing. They could do so much more, is what I would say. So why aren't they? And I spent a lot of time researching that. At the same time, I'm seeing a lot of bad news in regards to what's going on in the world, climate and plastic on beaches. It's all guilt-driven stuff, and a lot of it doesn't lead to any sort of not conclusion, but any it's what I'm an entrepreneur. What can I do about that? What
Right.
tell me? Stop telling me about the problem, right? Tell
Yeah.
tell me ways I can help and so doing a load of research around the social media world. The bottom line is the big guys can't do anything about it, right?
Mm.
It's not that they don't want to; it's they can't. They're public business, they're public companies, and their value is based on pretty much on their user base, right?
Yeah.
So to come out, and to really do anything drastic to fix the problems on social
Mm.
media, the obvious one is to know who people are, right? No
Yes. They can't
hiding
hide
behind
behind the
it,
anonymous.
exactly, and they can't do that. If Facebook came out tomorrow, Instagram came out tomorrow and said, right, you've got 24 days or 28 days to verify your account. We worked it out. They lose between 72 and 77% of their user base. There's thousands of people on there with duplicate accounts. I know people with like 20 different Instagram accounts because they can't remember the password or they split up with a girl, whatever it is. And there's millions of dead people on these platforms. There's just their user
Robots.
base would, right, and so would their share price.
Mm.
That combined with the fact that their business model is pretty much predominantly advertising, so they
Yeah.
want eyes on screens, they want numbers to give the advertisers,
And
and
also, I mean, haven't they pursued a rather cynical approach that it's clickbait? So they're going to put you in an echo chamber of horrible stuff, and the more you look at it, the worse it gets, and the more you click,
100%.
the more you look.
Yeah, absolutely. These algorithms send you down these paths that it's just not good. No,
Mm.
it's like a clash of bad things happening, right? The business model is based on addiction. You know,
Mm.
TikTok, for example, has got a whole team, a big team. All their job is to create sounds, right? And these teams are from things like casinos and slot machine companies. All the sounds are like they're trying to make you as addicted as possible. Now, whilst I was doing all this research and everything, I'd never been on TikTok, right? I'd just never been on it. I'm a voyeur on social media. I'd have Instagram and I have Facebook. Just Facebook is more for like family pictures and things, and Instagram is I just have a look at stuff. I don't post or anything like that. Anyway, whilst I was sort of writing the business plan for this, I never downloaded TikTok because I didn't want it to sort of form any part of what I wanted to build, basically. And once we came up with the business plan, once we nailed it down, once we got the investment, I downloaded TikTok, and I became addicted. Literally, it was. I'd go to bed and think, "Oh, wow, I'm TikTok now," that would normally end up being 2 hours or whatever. And I'm thinking, if that's doing that to me, a
Mm.
44-year-old guy,
Mm.
what is that doing to a 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old kid? And
Yeah.
that's why when you're sitting, like, me and my wife walked past drove past the school the other day, and just every kid coming out is just like this, just looking
Yeah.
down. And it's Wonder is not about reinventing the wheel. This is not about creating a platform that's just full of positive content and it's all rainbows and unicorns. We all skip to work. It's not that at all. It's offering it's social media version 2. It's like, right, okay, what works in social media? Because
Mm.
it does, social media has its benefits as well, and what doesn't work, right? And it's about stripping out that stuff that doesn't work and creating a different business model that isn't purely based around advertising. So that's effectively what we're doing, and that starts obviously with the verification. So yeah, and that won't be for everyone. We've done polls, and it is pretty much 50-50. It's almost bang on 50% of people want to see it and 50% don't. And I think it's like any big change, though. It's you'll slowly start winning those people over once they know that, for example, the data on Wunder is owned by you, right? So you can click a button if you want us to sell that and farm that out to people that want to buy that data, which would be no personal data, by the way,
Mm.
purely behavioural data. You get the revenue. Sorry, we split the revenue. So it's just about giving control back, right? And operating in a space. I want to go on social media. I want to get my social media fixed, but I don't want to, read all the negativity or the. It's we want freedom of speech, right?
Mm.
But we want people to stand behind what they're saying. This is like, if you want to go and call someone this, that, or the other, go do it, but you do it as you, not
Yeah.
hidden behind the keyboard under username 6102. It's just trying to create in an ideal world, I want to create a social media platform that
Hmm.
I'd be happy for my kids to be on, right? Because social media is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And at the moment, it's like, right, you're either on it or you're not, right? So kids, my daughter's 10, my eldest, and even now they're starting, some of her kids in her class are starting to go on social, which I think is amazingly mad. But it is like you can or you can't, right?
Yeah.
So it's about just creating a social platform. A lot of the celebrities, we have celebrities that have invested into Wonder. We have a big network of celebrities, and they can't wait for something like this. To operate and be able to use social media in a space where I was with someone the other day, and she showed me some of the. She's a friend, and she's she's a YouTuber, bit of a mummy blogger, and she's got some kids, and some of the comments, I hope your kid dies of cancer. I hope, it's just, it blows my mind. So Wonder's just about being able to operate in just a nicer way,
Yeah.
and
I
it
think
will,
you put your finger on. You said that a social media platform that you would be happy for your children to be on,
yeah,
or your
absolutely,
granny, maybe the other end too as well. Your
yeah,
your mum, whatever. Um.
absolutely.
Okay.
That's the driving force behind it.
Yeah.
Is
Because you're right. Because social is fun. That's why it's so addictive.
yeah,
It is fun. There's lots of things you can do. You can reach out to people. I actually reconnected with a woman I used to work with in Singapore, and she linked in with me on Facebook, whatever. I hadn't spoken to her in like, I can tell you exactly, it was 30 years because my daughter was
wow,
born and came in to see my daughter. At the time, she brought in a big toy when I was having my daughter in Singapore. And it was so funny. I'm chatting to her after 30 years, and I said, Harjit, and I moved my camera around and I said, "Here's the teddy you brought me into." The teddy was behind me. So that's beautiful. That's
yeah,
absolutely beautiful.
yeah. It has so many benefits.
Yeah.
You want to share what's going on in your life and everything else. It's just about it's just it seems like over the last 4 or 5 years it's just gone mad, right? It's the wild west, and it's becoming more and more and more toxic, and it's just time. I think
Mm.
there's just time for okay, right, we've dropped that experiment into that generation or two generations.
Mm,
It's not really working how we thought
yeah.
it might work, and it's gone a bit haywire. And so, yeah, that's what
So,
we built.
okay, I like the concept because that story I just described, I'd forgotten about it until you were talking. I go, that was beautiful. That was really nice. That connects me with a woman I worked with 30 years ago who
Mhm.
was there. My child was born. Lovely.
Yeah.
Perfect. So tell me then a little bit about, you said you've got some big celebrity partners. Who's involved?
Um,
Or who can you talk about if you
I can't really. I
I
can't
can't.
really.
Okay, okay,
I,
well
I,
no.
only because well, there's a few that you know of anyway.
Hmm.
Um, I don't. I don't
That's okay.
particularly.
That's okay. They'll
Yeah,
come out in the wash later on when we're
it
speaking to them.
100%.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just some of them we're talking about ambassadorial to, like,
Hmm. No, I
there's
totally get you. No,
there's
absolutely.
there is a
So
lot.
then, no. I should have cleared that question with you beforehand. So not worry about that. Then tell me a bit about. I know you're the entrepreneur and you are the businessman. Tell me a little bit about the technology because it's a Web3 solution you're offering.
Yes. So I am the least techie person.
That's okay. Just whatever
Uh,
label you're comfortable with.
so, it's going to be skimming the top.
Hmm.
So there's certain things that we wanted to achieve, right? So
Hmm.
obviously, like I said, the one of the things was moving away from the traditional selling advertising, right? Because
Yeah.
that makes you, as a business, it sort of makes you focus on eyeballs on screens, and
Hmm.
there was that element of it, the verification element of it, and the ability to own your own data and also mint content. So one of the things that we're really big on is, yeah, and it's getting worse and worse out there, is IP, right? Just ownership of data, sorry, ownership of content. So trying to tackle some of these techie issues, it all led us to Web3. The SSI for the verification to prove who you are. Obviously, the minting of content is based around sort of NFT tech. It makes it trackable. So it all led us down that path, and that's the route we're going to go down. Now we are a Web 2 product, right?
Hmm.
We're utilizing Web 3, so
Yeah.
we're not going out the gate as a blockchain token, that kind of business. It's just not that. The experience you will get on the app is a Web 2 experience. Just under the hood is Web 3, allowing us to do certain things. I think that's a really key thing. I've spoken to a lot of VCs over the last few months, and it's a lot of platforms, social platforms, have launched into the Web 3 space and never got any traction. And there's I think I read the other day, I think it's 40 million 40 million wallets open in the world or something. Yeah, it's a very small percentage
Hmm.
of the world's population. So if you're just aiming at in that space, you've got a very small market to go at. I would love those people, but I also want the other 98% of the world's population to be able to utilize this tech and not be blown, not think, 'cause I'm not a techie. So, 5 years ago, people mentioned blockchain to me. It was just, oh, yeah, I don't get it. So yeah, we definitely aren't going out the gates pushing that we're Web 3 or anything like that. It's definitely a Web 2 product. But yeah, everything under the hood is Web 3.
And it's going to be you're
And
issuing a token to
yes,
support
yeah,
it, and
we're
that'll be
issuing.
used on the platform. And you're also going to do help with people can nominate if they want to support a charity.
So one of the biggest things, as I touched on earlier, it was there's a lot of guilt-driven content out there. There's a lot of things that people would like to get involved in, and giving. When we did a lot of research in the giving sector, and from I won't give you too many stats because it's a bit boring, but from 1959 to 2010 in the UK, every year giving went up every year. Since 2010 to now, every year it's gone down. So it's like,
Oh,
right, why is that? Simple reasons. Trust and transparency is gone really in the big
mm,
charities. Stories of Bentley driving CEOs and big offices and
mm,
everything else. So that's one. Two is, well, and also the and I've done it. I've been a sucker for it. You sign up to a charity because someone catches you off guard at the front door or outside the train station. You sign up, £10 a month, and that money just goes into the abyss. You've got no clue where that money's going, not even a newsletter or anything like that. So that's another element. One of the biggest things, though, was actually we're moving into a cashless society. So in 2010, 72% of money raised was cash, right? Things in streets, people walking around. And so moving into a cashless society, that's obviously going to drop. Um, but having done again, I can see the research talk is very interesting. The generation, so sort of Gen Z coming through, are the ones that want to give the most. So
Mm.
what we wanted to do was set up a mechanism to make it trustable and transparent, and to bring you close to these projects. So on the app, like an explore button you would have, there's projects and causes around the world, and that could be wildlife, could be health, could be mental health, whatever, homeless, whatever, thousands, literally thousands of charities. And we share our advertising revenue. So 40% of our advertising revenue goes back to the users, to that demographic that have been advertised. So imagine, just for example, Nike want to spend £10,000 with us, and they want to hit 18 to 22-year-olds in London with a new trainer, whatever that is. That 4,000 that we push back will go back into their wallets for them to pay forward to these causes. So they can just, and as soon as you donate 1p or a pound to that cause, you then follow it, so you can see where the money's going. You can see, it brings you closer to that project. So yeah, it's
And
that
do you see there being like community projects benefiting from stuff like this as well?
absolutely. So most money is given to within 2 miles of your house, right?
Mm.
So you're much more likely to donate to fix a church roof, for example, than you are
Mm.
if there's an issue in Australia with a bushfire or whatever. So the model, or the plan, obviously at first, we've got tons of charities on there, more of the bigger charities, but the aim of the game is to get that down to community level, because I know, because that there's also a mechanism within the app to volunteer. So you can just say, right, yeah, I've got an hour,
Mm.
search 5 miles of your house, and it will show you things that you can help with. So yeah, that's exactly what we want to do, is bring it to community level.
And I was going to say also, isn't there an aspiration that it's going to mix the physical with the online, so that whether it's community activities, sports, events, going back to your event background, there'll be a crossover. So I mean, obviously online is borderless, but there'll be local stuff too as well connected to the platform.
Yes, absolutely. So that goes back to, it throwing up that certain. I mean, what we are fully aware of as well is that we can't business plan this too much. This is because this has not been done before. It's a bit of a petri dish, right? And we don't know exactly how people are going to use it. So we're leaving certain things open in regards
Mm.
to, right, let's see how people use it, see what they want. We worked with a team of 30 Gen Z, well, I say Gen Z, sort of 16 to 26-year-olds. So every other Friday, they would come in. So throughout the whole build of the app, they sort of came in. We did focus groups, and we did, we really wanted them to sort of guide us through. So we've got a semi understanding of what they want. There are early adopters effectively, but yeah, this is about. And again, I want to stress what we want to launch a social media platform, right? The whole giving element, right, and the whole doing good, and that bit will just come if we get the social bit right. So we
Mm.
have to get the social bit right. We don't want to go out the gates too much as this sort of let's save the planet. We have to get the social bit right. If we lead or go too heavy on the giving side, which two companies have done recently, it'll fail because it will turn so many people off.
Mm.
So if you get this bit right, get the social bit right, get people using it, that's when the advertising revenue kicks in. That's when the doing good kicks in.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's about, like I said, I think we mentioned before we started recording that there's things that you can do, and I did during lockdown, right? And because I had time on my hands, and I just wanted to get out of the house, so I was picking up prescriptions for elderly, and just things, small things that just took me 15 minutes, but made someone else's life. And the thing I learned was it feels good. It feels good when you do stuff that's like that. And I'll give you an analogy. And this is a true story. About a year ago, I was in Tesco's, just my local Tesco's, and there was a woman there, and her car got declined because of baby milk powder,
Mm.
and she got all a bit flustered, and I just tapped my card. It was 12 quid or something, and she was obviously very grateful, right? And she left feeling good about her. So I felt good, but more importantly, everyone that witnessed that, so anyone
Mm.
that they feel good as well. And
That's scientifically proven, isn't it? That even
yeah,
witnessing kindness
yeah,
can
exactly
release
that. And
endorphins.
almost what we want from Wonder. It's like we want,
Mm.
you know, but we've got to make it easy for people.
Mm.
This to do that volunteering work I just said there, I had to have 2 interviews. I had to drive 20 minutes away. I had one interview, I do understand, right, that they have to know who I am. If I'm walking
Mm,
up the driveways of elderly or whatever, they have to know who I am. But it was, government forms like this, and I thought this is too hard.
mm,
9 out of 10 people that would have done this would have fallen out and just thought, I can't be bothered with that.
mm,
This is about making it easy. That element of it, we know who you are. We know who people are on the platform. So
mm,
if there is things to do, we know who those people are, and also the giving element of it as well. Just make it easy.
mm.
These kids are so used to tech. It's got to be just at one button. Just, yeah, I like that. Bang, and it sends the money. So it's about bringing the giving sector into the 21st century as well, because it's on the decline. And I'm not saying we want to fix the whole world's problems in one shoot, but it just made sense to me that to have that mechanism on the platform. And yeah, like I say, we definitely want to leave the social stuff, or the social media element of it, and the verification. Um, but yeah, that bit for me is my motivator. So it's like, right, if we get this bit right, we're going to raise millions, if not billions of pounds for good causes, and it's all there to be seen and witnessed.
Finally, tell me your roadmap. What's the timelines on what's happening?
So we have an app in the App Store, um, which we built for testing purposes. Like I say, it goes back to that petri dish scenario. We wanted to understand how people use it, what they're using, what they like, what they don't like. So that's in the App Store now. We are planning our TG for the 25th of March,
Okay.
and the soft launch of the. So obviously we've taken all our findings, we're refining that app that's in the App Store, and adding a few bits. That we think we will soft launch in July, and there'll be a hard launch in October.
Okay. Wow. So at the end of the year, it'll be up and running
It will
last.
be up
Mm, mm,
100% up and running. Yeah, the app will be like, and that obviously just be the start. It's never going to be finished. Obviously, it just be
mm.
um, improved. But yes, that's the roadmap. We've stuck to deadlines. To date, we've hit our deadlines in regards to getting that testing app in the app store. It's quite a complex bit of kit or tech, should I say.
Mm.
But yeah, it's in there if people want to see it. It's we built something that looks very familiar. We don't want to try and reinvent the wheel. We don't want to have to teach people how to use it.
Mm.
It's very obviously social media, but yeah, with the added benefits.
Brilliant. I look forward to downloading the app and I wish you every success at Wunder. And it sounds as though it could be the type of place that would like my children to also go on, even if they're grown up, but even still, nice for them to go on
You're
to.
welcome there too as well, Julian.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Julian.